everyone, it's Dee. I have a bunch of journals that I have created. I am going to put these in my shop on Etsy at Golden S Studio, and I wanted to share with you a flip through of all of them. They are sewing journals, and I did them in a vintage fashion, and I'll show you what I've created. So this is my large one, and I have these really funky retro women on the front. I absolutely love them. They are so cute. And I stamped out Beautiful You with some letters, put them on there. We've got, this is dimensional here and here. I have some vintage buttons on their original cards here, and some vintage buttons here. This is an original card that they're still sewed on. And flowers, leaves, an old doily. Everything is hand distressed. I have an old vintage measuring tape, and the book itself is covered in vintage pattern paper from sewing patterns. On the back, the spine here, this is a vintage, it was one of those like hooks that go in. I have no idea the name of what you would call these, but they have those little metal hooks that go in, and it obviously acts like, you know, buttons or so forth to button something up. But I just loved it, and I distressed it. I cut it down. I put it down vertically on the spine with some trim here, and then I created a really shabby charm that I've hooked on one of the little hooks here, and I've created this. This is all handmade, and we have cherries, a sewing machine, a little retro woman, scissors, shoes, a little buckle, and it's all related to like fashion and sewing. And then I hand tattered some fabric here and attached it. So this will be hanging off the side. And then obviously that's the back. And here, I want to make sure I'm in frame. Okay, and here we go. So here is the front. It is the inside. And I use, again, everything is hand distressed, pattern paper, 3-ring binder. I have a pocket here. I have an alteration tag, another tag that slide in here. This is a vintage button card, and I put a little patch of scissors on here. I did some trim. A nice funky woman. I hate all of these are sewed. These this is some vintage fabric that I sewed on. A flashcard, sale, another tab here, some vintage fabric, a hand stamped sewing and buttons, scissors, a thimble, a vintage label, vintage buttons, some fabric here, trim, a lot of room to journal. I created this tag. It was a tag, and then I used some vintage buttons and a label here. All kinds of places you can journal, and you can do put pictures, or you know, whatever it is that you're looking to use it for. Some vintage fabric. This paper here is handmade. I pulped it in a blender. I created the paper, like you have a, it's like a screen, and it's all hand dried, and this is made from bits and pieces of paper, and then I just tore around the edges, and I just thought that was, it's all, like for me, I love the texture, and sewed this on the side. This is a vintage button card, and so I included that in there. It's really, really cool. It's pretty thick. Pretty happy with the way it came out, and I thought that would be pretty cool to put in there for like texture and so forth, and maybe you want to staple or glue or attach something to it. Some funky women. More here, hand stamped women here. And I created this out of a, like it was, I think it had, well, obviously it says hem facing, but it was like the little package that it was in. I put another label on here. I fussy cut her out, and it opens, and there's like little bits and pieces and things inside that you may want to stick somewhere else in the journal, or keep it, you know, in here, whatever you choose to do. Extra buttons, little envelope that buttons came in. I have some tags, different, different sizes. Hand stamped scissors here. Fussy cut this woman out, put her on the front. And some more little doodahs in there. And they fit nicely in the pocket. Some more retro women. Here I hand stamped a, I guess it's like a spool of thread. Same thing here with the women. All of these papers here that I've gone through and hand stamped on, they are hand dyed with tea, and then I reinforce them, so because it is delicate paper, and I put reinforcements on them so they won't rip. And another paper here with more of the tabs that are sewed on, and these are nice and thick. Here is a half sheet. I have threads that I kept loose, so it gives that shabby look. Here is a vintage doily. Another hand dyed paper, hand stamped spool thread image. Another pocket I've created. Some tags. Fussy cut her, put her on there, created that. Some more doodahs that go back into this pocket. And everything has a sewing theme. Another sewed on vintage tab with the material, vintage buttons on a card, more handmade paper that I created. And that's the vintage measuring tape. Little side pocket here with some doodahs, vintage fabric, some vintage snaps. Look at that, 10 cents. I think that's so funny. Could you imagine going into the store today and going, oh, that's 10 cents. I mean, it's crazy. So I attached that to it. Sewed tab with the material. Another pocket here. More doodahs. Hand stamped the buttons. Fussy cut her. Vintage fabric. I used a green so it would pop it out with all the coordinating colors. Everything, like I said, everything is hand distressed. Gives it that vintage feel. All kinds of good little doodahs in there. And this is the last page. The Fabric of Life. Sewed vintage tab on there. Some funky women. And yeah, so this is the first one. And there's enough room for you to be able to add to it, write in it, put pictures in it. Perhaps you use it for your sewing projects, and you can write about what you've created and sewed and maybe given away and taken pictures of. And it's a nice little journal to, keep memories in. But up to you what you're going to use it for. So that's the first one. The second one is created with a lot of fabric, And I have, it's got all kinds of buttons and doodads and flowers and snaps. I have a frame here with this vintage woman and some vintage buttons. And this is fabric with a doily. Open it up. Got some pom-poms here with a trim. I want to call them like mannequins, the dress forms. That's what they are. So a vintage material tab here, and vintage buttons on a card, little doodads with love. This is hand stamped, fancy trimming buttons, the fabric of life. Made that into a pocket. This is more of the hand dyed tea paper, little tab, more doodads over here. I made a fabric pocket, put this retro woman on it with some, I think those are mother of pearl vintage buttons, and more tabs that are, all of these fabrics are vintage. The fabric of life. And this is a belly band. This comes out. This little retro woman here. Little measuring tape next to her. It's part of the little embellishment, but I thought she was cute. Household expenses. Hand stamped tag I created. Another chart or journaling card, and everything is blank on the back, so you know you could write on the back too. Got a little budget sheet, and they slip in there on the hand dyed paper, and that's sewed on the top and the bottom. Doily, more vintage or retro funky women. Here's another one of those journaling cards I put here, and then you can journal here. I distressed it. Great place to journal over there. Maybe put some pictures. Some more journaling cards. Aren't these sweet? Hand dyed paper, sewed around the edges. Fabric of life. And then I created these. This is some vintage linen type of material. I glued on this retro woman, and then I hand created these little tiny pins, and I put them in there. They have little caps that are on them. Thought they would be cute. You could probably use them for something. And I mean, you can maybe pin paper in or whatever. And some more journaling cards. Retro women in the pocket, hand dyed paper, some more of the pom-pom trim, vintage buttons on the card. That's stapled to the back. The back is fabric, and this says "A Life Full of Love" on that side, and that's this journal. I love the colors of this journal. All of them, but I thought that one was really cute. And then lastly, I made a little journal here. It's about so big, fits in a palm of your hand, a little bit bigger. And then I created this pouch to put it in. So here is the back, and then the front. These come out. Some more of the hand stamped fancy trimming button cards, and I made a pocket and put them in here. So basically what I did was I staggered them so you can see the different colors, and I put them right in here. And this is a extra buttons envelope that I created into a tag, and then put a little tie on it. Put some buttons there. So that's your little keeper for your journal. Journal has a little tie to keep it closed if you want, or you can cut it apart and use it in your journal. Really cute retro woman, hand stamped, and this is made from some pattern paper. It's hand sewed, hand stamped spool designs like the head of a spool, and another dress form, a sewed tag, hand stamped spool there, nice cute little retro woman there, and we have a paper bag here, got some journaling cards here, blank on the back, sewed some embellishments there, another retro woman. This comes out, hand stamped images there with some lace, got a little clip, hand stamped scissors, another really cute retro woman, so cute, love the green, hand stamped image there, little tag, belly band, vintage patterns there, sewed around, created a tag on that, another retro woman, here's the other part of the paper bag, pull that out, cute as a button, vintage pattern paper. You can use that maybe for your budget or keeping track of something. And then they slip right in there like that. And another clip here with some lace on it. And this is a little pocket that comes out. And I have some rickrack on there, so if you want to use it for another project or in your journal, it is a tag that has pattern paper that I've attached to it, and then there's a stamped scissors, and that fits nicely in there with a journal tag, and some vintage pattern paper here, 25 cents, hand stamped images here, and then that gets tucked under here with this clip. Then it closes, got all your little, and then you have all of your lace that comes off the tags that stick out. There's another one here. And let's see, we'll put this back on, and then it fits nicely. And you could untie this, you can do anything you want with it, but this is the way I have it attached. And then we can just put it right back in here. So those are my 3 new sewing journals that I will be listing in my shop. So I will have the link down below. And thank you so much for watching. Any questions, please contact me. And as always, thank you for subscribing and welcome if you're new. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.